Good morning, folks. It's just a couple minutes before 4 in the morning GMT time on Monday, June 22nd. I'm going to take a look at Forex. Most of the pound pairs look like we're going to be looking at pretty much the same thing, so we're going to kind of go through them real quick. We, on all the pairs, continued our move up pretty much from where we started last week. Didn't get the pullbacks we were looking for, so we're going to, of course, be looking for pullbacks this week after we've had 2 weeks of really solid up movement, and pretty much all of the pairs we're going to be looking for a pullback between the 50% and the 61.8% fib, which is going to coincide with the 4-hour 55. So we'll look for a pullback into that area and see where the 55 moves up to, and of course we'll look for other areas of support and resistance as horizontal support and resistance forms, or we form up around midterm fibs or weekly pivots. All that we want to see, a good number of support and resistance areas where we can trade around. So pound CAD, you can see pretty much the same thing. We've all of our EMAs turning up quickly, and of course here you can see that the 55 is going to be coming up in our zone of the 50% to 61.8% fib there. All right, here we have pound odd, which did get somewhat of a pullback last week. Moved up pretty much beginning of the week, and then we got a little bit of a pullback here, and we're basically going to be looking for a pullback into about the same area. You can see that's going to be our 50% fib, also a midterm fib, close to the bottom of the 4-hour momentum master bands, and of course we have the 4-hour 55 right there as well. So we'll look for support in that area for a long. Pound JPY, basically the same thing. We're going to be looking at support around MR1, which is going to be in our 50 to 61.8% fib zone, and the 4-hour 55 there as well. And pound USD, again, we have MR1, super convergence zone, 4-hour 55. So again, going to be a logical place to look for a long. So since we have pretty much the same thing across all the pound pairs, we can look for which other currency is having the weakest bout of news for the week, and we can also look at which one has the largest range, most volatility to get us in. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best move RR-wise. Pretty much, we're going to want to look at whether we have strengthening or weakening commodities, what's going on with the US dollar and what's going on with the yen. And depending on what's going on with those currencies or baskets will give us the pretty much the best trade option to trade against or to trade the pound against those other options. All right, Euro JPY, we didn't quite make it back down to the 137 area where I was looking for last week. We do have the 55, which is kind of in the middle here, and we could possibly trade off of WS1 and the 4-hour Dynafibs. You can see that that's kind of below where the fib is telling us. Basically, if we get a little bit more of a pushback to here and then a move up, we could trade from there. I think that's a little bit risky as we have a top area forming here around the 140.70, 140.80 area. So not one of the ideal pairs that I'm looking to trade here. Probably need to get a little bit more clarity on Euro versus the yen. Euro versus the New Zealand dollar, on the other hand, has moved up nicely. We are well away from the majority of our EMAs. We look for a pullback down to the 61.8% fib, which you can see is starting to form a horizontal support and resistance line, and we have the 4-hour 55 coming up to meet that, and WS1 not too far below. All right, odd JPY, you can see that I have this fibbed on the daily. It's this last month's low to high. Let's take a look at the 4-hour, because this is more in a consolidation or range pattern from the daily. It looks more like consolidation. we'll have to see what the next low and high does. So preferably, I'm still looking for a long between the two daily EMAs for support to form up there, preferably down around 94 or 70 area, and then look to trade that back up to basically 97. And I definitely look to get out from there and then to take a short from that area. So it does look like that is pretty much our range so far. All right, AUD USD is pretty messy. My preferred trade is a pullback way up to our 78.6 fib, which coincides with the daily 200 and is just short of 8,000, which is definitely going to be a strong resistance area. So I would like to short from that area. However, if we don't get back up there, because you can see that our recent high from last week is also a bit of a resistance area. So if we get a solid break back down below the EMAs and a pullback perhaps to the 4-hour 200 or daily 55 and a subsequent move down, we can look to trade that down to the bottom, which is going to be the bottom from a few weeks ago, down near 75.80, 75.90 area. So it does give us a couple hundred pips to play with there, but definitely the larger trade would be a pullback to 8,000 short. All right, New Zealand dollar versus the US dollar. Not as much movement on this pair compared to some of the other New Zealand dollar pairs, but we can look for a pullback to the 50%, 61.8% fib area. Again, 61.8, you can see that we have a midterm fib here, and we're going to be having the 4-hour 55 move down into that area. That's also been a bit of a pivotal area for horizontal support and resistance, so potentially a short from there, but I think definitely better opportunities on some of the other pairs this week. USD CAD starting to look a little bit more bearish, although potentially not very easy to trade. If we do stay above, or I'm sorry, if we do stay below 123, where we have the super convergence zone and cluster of EMAs, which looks like it would be a really good area to trade from, we can take a short from that area, but we do have 122, which is a big support area where we kind of broke that and then quickly retreated and then moved back above it. So definitely want to be careful with your trade management as we approach that area. And then we have the daily 200 here at right around 120.70 currently, and I would definitely look for that to hold and for a potential long from that area. USD JPY, I have a fib on the daily since we moved down last week, but it looks like we're still in a pretty good position to look for a long. You can see here where this midterm fib has been horizontal support resistance. We also have the 200 here, which is holding up price, and shortly below that we have the daily 55 and 122, all going to be tough to break through. So if we get a good solid move down into this area and a nice rejection formation, I will look to trade that back up to like 125.80, that area to be the high of the target. Look for, probably take most of my profit off at WR2. And here's what that fib looks like on the daily. You can see that it is last month's low up to the current month's high. You can see that we have a pretty large range there. All right, Euro USD looks pretty messy. We did break the triangle to the upside last week, and you can see that we pulled back to it and have since moved away. We do have the 4-hour 55 moving up into that area, as well as the two pivots there, so that the trend line could be a good place to look for a long. However, we have our daily 200 here, which is probably going to put up a bit of a fight. So again, this is not going to be one of my preferred pairs to trade this week, and you can see that we also have kind of a top here from where our high was from last week. So potentially we could be looking at a move back down if we fail to break that high. If we fail to break through here, we're looking at a pretty good probability that we could see a move back down to this bottom trend line. All right, so pretty quick synopsis for me this week. Those are the areas that I'm looking to trade around. Be sure to keep an eye on your calendars and current events, and look for opportunities to trade around the news, and make sure you're managing appropriately when those news events do come up. All right, happy trading, everybody, and I'll see you later on in the week.